Hey guys, Nate Truesdale here with the Banqiao Dam collapse incident, and I'm about to go through the ethical analysis of this disaster. And just a little bit of background: the Banqiao Dam was constructed in China, specifically in the Jumandian city in the Henan province in the center of China. It was constructed in 1952 in late April, and was helped with some of the Soviet civil engineers that were sent from the USSR. Um, One thing to know about China is at this time there was a lot of flooding going on, so they had a lot of needs for dams to be constructed to keep all the floodwaters back. And in 1954, just 2 years after the construction of the dam, there was a massive flood in a couple of river systems away from the dam. So as such, um, there was a lot of casualties, a lot of flooding. So what they did was they took all these existing dams and they increased them a little bit more in height. So they took the Banqiao Dam and they increased it in height by a good 2.5 meters. And this made the Banqiao Dam one of the biggest dams that was in China at the time. So pretty impressive. Now, getting along into the actual disaster. The disaster took place in 1975 in early August, around the time that a massive typhoon was sweeping into China. Typhoon Nina, which was considered one of the biggest typhoons in Chinese history to ever make landfall. It occurred August 6th in 1975, like stated, and it dropped records amount of rainfall. We're talking like 1 meter of height of rainfall in 24 hours, when the average rainfall in 1 year for that area was 0.8 meters. So that's a lot of rain. So it's something they didn't really expect to see, but nonetheless, it still occurred, and it became a big issue for the dam. Um, what ultimately happened was the flooding flooding took place. The dam couldn't hold back the flood waters, and then eventually, peak hours of October 8th, around 1 a.m., uh, the dam erupted, spewing massive amounts of flood water down into several towns and villages, south side of the dam and down the stream, killing thousands of people and leaving hundreds of thousands of people without homes and water and shelter. So, big problem. Now, just looking sort of at the ethical situation that was going on behind this occurrence was, I'm specifically going to look at two categories of ethics. I'm going to look at deontology and also consequentialism. The first one is deontology. As we all know, deontology is sort of backed up by you're bound by duty to do something, and you're also your actions are motive based. There's always a reason why you do something, and regardless of what the outcome is, you should always stick to this duty regardless of what happens. And relating this to this situation is, it was the engineers' duties to ensure that they built the perfect dam and most safe dam that they could. Reason being is because they had so many people's lives in their hands. If they had built a dam that they didn't see as fit, they were not doing their jobs right, and it's very unethical of them to build such a dam if it wasn't perfect. And one thing you could look at is, well, this was a 1 in a 2,000 year typhoon causing all this rain. It's nothing they could have foreseen. Still, deontology says, regardless of what happens, they didn't do their duty. Their duty was to make the safest possible dam, at all, no matter what. So that's one thing that they could, sort of put into, you could sort of put into perspective. Next thing you can look at is also the fact that it's also sort of their job as Chinese engineers to build this themselves. Why rely on a Soviet civil engineer, God forbid, civil engineers, to come in and, build something for you? They they had no duty to their own country. They lacked patriotism to, fulfill their own, mission as Chinese engineers to build this themselves. And that really sort of raises some sort of ethical questions as whether or not they should let somebody else do the dirty work and do all the calculations and, you know, do they're basically relying on a foreigner for their safety of not only themselves but also their neighbors and their families that are, living in that town. So I found that to be very unethical as well. The second thing I'm going to look into is consequentialism. Consequentialism looks at the after effects, the consequences of everything. And I have a little bit of time left, but based on everything that happened, all the lives that were lost, all the people that were starving, and all the people that were left without shelter, it's very clear to show that their actions for building the dam in the way they did was very unethical. In addition, there was a hydrologist by the name of Chen Xing. He came to them and he said, before the collapse, he said, hey, you have 5 sluice gates. You need to add 12 on this to make it safer. They kicked him to the side. That was a bad idea, and as such, it was very unethical of them to really do that. And that the engineers were at fault in the eyes of consequentialism because the ends justify the means. All right? Thank you very much. Time is up. Catch you later.